Welcome to On the Firing Line on the information station, AM 1440 KUHL. Information, education, news, and politics of firearms and ammunition is found here. If you have any questions, call us at 1-888-625-1440. That's 1-888-625-1440.
A 63-year-old homeowner and his wife had just returned to their home in Olympia, Washington, when the couple heard suspicious noises coming from the second floor of the house. The homeowner retrieved a handgun, went to investigate, and happened upon an intruder who attempted to attack him. The homeowner responded by firing at the intruder, striking him in the leg, and ending the confrontation. Following the shooting, the criminal was taken to a local hospital, where his wounds were described as non-life-threatening. Police have no intent to charge the homeowner, with Thurston County Sheriff Sergeant Ken Clark stating the suspect is the one who escalated the incident beyond what initially started. This brought to you by the Olympia, Washington, January 21st, 2014.
That's right. You are on the firing line with Matt and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440.
Don't forget to go to our Facebook page on the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Like the page and join up. Give us some responses.
Yep.
And if you've got any ideas, throw us some links. We'd like to see what else everybody else is thinking.
Yeah, don't be scared to share the page.
Absolutely. Today's going to be an interesting show. We're going to be talking about Ruger, Smith & Wesson, and some of the other manufacturers out there who have made statements that they may not renew some of their guns, or they will not submit any new guns to the state, California State Handgun roster of certified guns for sale. And I think it's something that we should be talking about. There's been a lot of debate out there. We've seen it in the paper. Heck, it's in the Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it was on the front page of the Santa Barbara News Press from what I heard.
Yeah, so this is news. And I think that this is going to be enough confrontation, enough debate, enough everything else to maybe get some movement on this subject and maybe finally abolish this roster of handguns certified for sale. We've already seen that it's unconstitutional by one judge.
Right.
But it's time that we take it to the next step. This is the kind of stuff that gets people to start thinking, start talking to their legislators, and get things done.
Yep. And there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I mean, we'll get into it all, but you can look at it like, oh, dang, Ruger, now I'm not going to be able to buy their stuff. Or you can look at it like, all right, Ruger, you're standing up for something you believe in and don't give in to somebody else. Couple different ways of looking at it.
Absolutely. We do like your opinion out there. If you have any opinions on this subject, please give us a call at 805-928-1440. Again, that's 805-928-1440. Or you can call us at our 888 number, 625-1440. Again, it's important to have discussion.
Yeah, definitely. Give us a call. So the Second Amendment encounter, when Joe and I were writing this earlier, we kind of said we read this story every week, it seems like, just with a different name.
That's right. I forgot about this.
But it's just there to show you that, the firearm is there and it's in place as a security thing and it works.
But yeah.
That's very broad, but, and it goes in more depth than that, of course.
Actually, what we said was different story, same story.
Yeah, different story, same story. Exactly. Yeah, some guy breaks into somebody's house who looks like easy prey and whack! And usually they find him in the hospital. This guy actually got taken to the hospital. That's where it differed.
It's amazing the statistics out there don't show this side of it.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that, guns kill people. Can't believe anybody makes it out of a gun show alive. I mean, there's,
I'm surprised this older couple didn't have their gun taken away from them and used against them.
That's
usually what you want to.
Yeah, if the news,
what the Democrats want to put out there.
And if that did happen, this whole country would hear this story.
Oh God, yes.
Because that would give them fire.
We told you.
Yeah, exactly. See what happens with handguns? I told you we needed to get rid of them. That's exactly what they'd be saying.
But instead, this is going to be used as a statistic as, hey, somebody was wounded by a firearm.
Yeah, somebody who's doing something bad to other people who are doing nothing at all other than just being them good selves at their house.
Right.
And
never mind the fact that they were supposed to be wounded.
Never mind that. Yes. Look the other direction.
Wow.
Just like Demeter would.
All right, we are going to be talking about the drop test a little bit. We're going to be not necessarily just the drop test, but the roster of handguns certified for sale here in California.
What does it take for these handguns to be on such a list,
Yep, and the new law that's come out adding on to the things that they have to, the hoops that they have to jump through to be on this list, one of them being micro-stamped.
Yeah, and that's kind of the latest, greatest problem that there is, hoop, like you just said, hoop to get through. There's a whole bunch of them, and this is just another one for these companies that have to adhere to it to get the sales from this one state.
Right, and there's a lot of aspects to this as we read through these articles people should be thinking about. Number one, what is it going to do to the guns available to us?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, how is it going to circumvent your right to be able to pick what you want to be able to use to defend yourself?
Yeah, if they narrow it down to high point or something, I mean, I want to have more than one choice.
Or if we're just reduced down to revolvers, which is, we talked about this about a year ago.
2 years ago, dude. Right. I mean, yeah, totally. You're totally right. I mean, that's something that is in the scope of what they want to do. Bolt guns and revolvers, and hey, why do you guys need more than that? Why do you need more than 15 rounds?
Maybe it's because I don't like the idea of a bigger black market, and I don't want guns out there that I can't defend myself against.
And that's all well
or
and
people
good.
that use those guns.
That's all well and good, but what about just my right to get what I want?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
I'm 100% behind you there.
We're legal to have these things. Why are they restricting good, law-abiding citizens?
All right, there's a couple of things here that California requires for a gun to be put on their roster of certified guns for sale. One of them being a drop safety test. All new firearms, a drop safety, as the name implies, is designed to reduce the chance of a weapon accidentally discharging when it is dropped or roughly handled.
Wow.
Such safeties generally provide an obstacle to proper operation of the firing mechanism that is only removed when the trigger is pulled, meaning any other possible cause of the weapon discharging is generally prevented.
See, they're making it sound like it's foolproof, There's no way, which I kind of agree. If you don't press the trigger, it's probably not going to go off.
Right.
But that's kind of how it is anyway, right?
So what are they, that's just it. Okay, in the back, a while back, there were your revolvers would go off if they got dropped.
Yes, because it would hit the hammer and make it jump forward.
Right, because it was resting against the primer. A lot of the newer revolvers, though, have transfer bars that don't allow that to happen. And so that's kind of obsolete. It is
totally.
I think it's something it's probably good. And if any of you remember out there, that's why a lot of officers or even cowboys would always leave one cylinder empty.
That's right.
In their revolver, so that if their gun did go off, they use common sense.
Yeah, and that's not so common, though.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, that's exactly what it was common sense. Hey, I'm riding a horse. I'm going up and down, so I'm just going to leave this one with, I'm going to leave it empty, and then as soon as I press the trigger, it's going to rotate and go off anyway.
What about the 3 safety rules? If I'm rough with my gun and I'm following my gun, and I'm following the 3 safety rules, keeping it pointed in a safe direction, keeping my finger off the trigger,
yep,
making sure the gun's unloaded until I'm ready to use it. Hey. Yeah. I'm probably not going to have the problem of it going off anyways. And instead of making felonious laws, why don't they add programs like you need to do a certain amount of training to have your gun? We don't even need to do registration. Yeah. Education instead of registration sounds much better.
And that's something, once you get into it, the education part can be very interesting and, even fun. It's just part of it, it's whereas restrictions and registration, that's not interesting or fun.
No. Here's another thing. All the guns that are on the California roster of handguns for sale must also have a magazine interlocks. A magazine disconnect is an internal mechanism that engages a mechanical safety such as a block or trigger disconnect when the firearm's magazine is removed. As with any firearm feature, there is a debate regarding the necessity of a magazine disconnect. The magazine-capable firearms have no magazine disconnect. There are exceptions, notably Ruger rimfire rifles, and the U.S. Senate of California passed legislation in 2006 requiring magazine disconnects on all new handgun designs sold in the state beginning January of 2007. That's one reason why we've actually seen a lot of guns not coming into the state from
Absolutely.
HK.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't even thinking of them.
We're all thinking about Ruger and Smith & Wesson right now, but this
There's
is something
so many
that's been
that are
taking place.
in the scope.
Right. We've got Well, Springfield Armory for one.
Yep. And real quick, I'm going to just basic of what a magazine interlock is. So if you put the magazine in, you run the slide so you have a round in the pipe and it's ready to rock. Okay, so now you take the magazine out. If you press the trigger, it's not going to fire because they're thinking it's too dangerous with that round in the chamber. Whereas if you knew how to clear a firearm, you'd take the magazine out and clear it, and that would be that. So basically, the gun won't fire with the magazine removed.
Right, and every time you pick up a gun, whether there's a magazine or not,
Yeah,
you check it, clear it.
And even if you're not clearing it, I mean, whatever your setting is, you're at least checking it to know its condition.
Right, and you're looking to see if there's brass in there or if there's an empty chamber.
Yeah, empty chamber. Yeah.
Hello. It's ridiculous. It's like they want to think for us, and I'm sick and tired of that.
Right.
I mean, I know there's enough sheeple out there that want somebody else to think for them because they're so dang lazy.
And they'll follow it down to the bitter
Right.
end, thinking that it's the right thing.
God,
which is sad.
It reminds me of the Russian guys that came into the store the other day,
Duh.
and they said, we notice all the things that's happening to you guys here, and it reminds us of what happened in Russia before we had all our guns taken away from us.
I don't.
This
yeah,
is,
I mean
that's
that's
within our times.
Exactly. That leaves me tongue-tied. I mean, it's scary.
And of course, don't forget any guns that are going to be on the California gun list approved for sale here in California must only have 10-round capacity in their magazines. Otherwise, it's considered an assault weapon.
Yeah, and go figure. So in all these other states, 16, 15, 16, 17 rounds. They're assault weapons, but they're pistols and they don't go bang, 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 bang. I mean, they fire one shot. They don't fire burst. They don't have a foregrip. All this BS. I mean, it's a pistol, not an assault weapon.
Can you imagine if none of the manufacturers made any 10-round magazines? Or 5-round?
That would be the easiest way for us not to have anything in California.
Well, would
Make
it
us all
also
felons.
be because...
Then it would be a lawsuit.
I think it would be a lawsuit. I think it would go to the Ninth Circus Court, and somebody would have to make a decision on this. Because here's the thing: is if the manufacturers don't make these products because they choose not to,
Right.
then that's their prerogative, and they have every right to do that, especially if they're in other states.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is if they don't make 10-round magazines, and California says you have to have a gun that only holds 10-round magazines, but there is no such thing as a 10-round magazine, then they barred you from having a gun. Is it the manufacturer that's barred you, or is it California that's barred you?
It's California at that point. Because the manufacturer, trust me, they want to sell stuff. They just don't want to limit everything they sell.
And why should they be forced to make items for such a small area?
Yeah,
when the rest of the country
that's a good point.
Almost doesn't follow that kind of procedure.
Think of any firearms company, just throw in random name, and so they have the big production, they're building R&D, all this stuff, and then they have this whole other legal crew probably that does sales for California.
And they've got to set up all different equipment for
exactly,
that.
And they got to set up a whole different shop and all this stuff. I mean, it's got to be such a headache.
Cost effective? Is it really worthwhile for them?
That's it right there. Yep.
I wonder.
All right. Well, I think we should take a break, and then we'll get back into this before we reach that.
All right. We'll start it off with micro stamping on this next spot there, and hey, we'll be right back with you on the firing line with Matt and Joe.
We'll be back to more of On the Firing Line with Joe and Jim after this.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We will be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
Now, a great word from Santa Maria Motorcycles, formerly Santa Maria Harley-Davidson, located at 2022 Presser Lane. They are dealers for Honda, Kawasaki, and Harley-Davidson. Grab your family and go see the museum, filled with exciting older bikes that you won't see anywhere else on the Central Coast. As well, they are the #1 motorcycle dealer on the Central Coast with the largest inventory around. Go in and see Martin Buchanan, or you can give him a call at 805-928-3668. You can also go visit them every first Thursday of the month for Bike Night. Starts at 6 p.m. Have a great time with your family at Santa Maria Motorcycles.
We're happy to have a special guest here today at the Plumbing Talk Studios, Jeremy Griffin, owner of Griffin Plumbing in Orcutt. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Jeremy, the reason your plumbing company is called Griffin Plumbing is that your last name is, in fact, Griffin.
Yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable. Griffin, just like the legendary creature with the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
What a brilliant move, Jeremy.
I'm a genius.
To name your plumbing company after this majestic creature. A creature known not only to have divine power, but also to be a protector from all things evil.
Well, it is my last name.
Audience, listen carefully. If your plumbing devices are threatened in any way, I implore you to seek the power and protection of the Griffin.
We're always here to help. Just give us a call.
Call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the firing line with Matt, Jim, and Joe today.
Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440. Or if you're in the Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440.
And of course, don't forget to check us out on Facebook on the Firing Line with Matt and Joe.
That's right. We are back on the firing line. Give us a call at 928-1440. So we're going to get into, we've been talking about the things that these companies have to already go through to sell a gun in California. And they have yet another brilliant idea, something called microstamping.
Microstamping, oh my God. Microstamping, for those of you out there who don't know, is a requirement that each firearm be fitted with a special firing pin and a place inside of the chamber that will leave information on the casing and the primer when the gun is fired. This is something that's been signed into law as of... It was actually, I think, signed in when Schwarzenegger was in.
It was a while back.
And it was to be so that when the technology was out there, it would actually be implemented.
Right.
And somebody's actually come in with the technology, and so now it's implemented. As a matter of fact, when, let's see, A.G. Harris bans all new semi-automatic handguns in California. California's Kamala Harris. Actually, it looks like, do we have a caller? Let's, who is it? Well, welcome to the firing line. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys.
All right.
Hey, I've just got a thing from Cal Guns on my email, and this SB 808, the Ghost Guns with the Kevin DeLeon.
Oh, yeah, DeLeon. He's one of our favorite characters
What
to pick
a
on.
joke.
Oh, big
That
joke.
guy has absolutely no idea. You know what? I bet you that guy's never shot a gun in his life.
You know, but he's seen it on TV.
Yeah, but
He's
he's
an
got 30-round
absolute idiot.
clips, 30-round magazines that hold clips or something.
Yeah, we'll just call him
I
30.
can't even
Oh, yeah, it'll
articulate
shoot
what he said.
It'll shoot 15 clips a second or something.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
I mean, it's
I want
just-
one of those.
I mean, if you go on the YouTube thing on the Cal Guns, they got somebody there that's, putting up little, little blurbs.
Uh-huh.
And it's so funny. It's like, how big of an idiot am I?
Oh, yeah.
And how much of a left wing I hate guns.
Yeah, and every time they come up with some new idea for anti-gun stuff, we see this. It's inaccurate in the way that they bring it across to the public. It's if you know about it, it's easily to point out and say, "Oh no, that's not how it really is." But if you don't know, how else would you know? I mean, you just got to take their word for it.
They're taking pages right out of the Brady campaign. They said it's okay to lie to get your point across.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. It says, oh, yeah, all you need is a drill press to make a full automatic weapon with a ghost gun.
Yeah, that's
I
all
mean,
you need.
It's such a joke.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing else.
What's to stop the human being from doing whatever they want to do anyways, except self-control? Why don't they just uphold the laws that are already in place?
Yeah, there's plenty of them.
Hey, there's 20,000 people in California right now, they're not allowed to own guns.
Okay.
And they know who they are.
Keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
Have they gone out to get them?
Yeah.
And say, give me your gun?
No.
I mean, this is such it's, and every time, you just had that shooting today.
Right.
And that's going to be another big thing. Okay, outlaw guns. So
Yeah.
the only people who are going to have guns are criminals.
And lately, though, it hasn't been getting them any
Yeah, they haven't
movement
been. Yeah, they
or
haven't picked
anything.
up any steam. Even though, despite every time there's a firearms, whether it's a tragedy or somebody saves their own life with a firearm, no matter what, it gets reported as negative. But they're not picking up on it like they were last year and the year before.
It's lost steam. They've lost the will to fight for it because, hey, they're not getting anywhere with it. They realize that it's not as big of a movement as they'd like it to be.
Look at Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
They ousted 2 guys there. I mean, I hope California could do that, but I mean, I think we're screwed in California. I mean,
well, I'll say it's pretty far gone, but there's always hope.
I hope so. But hey, your guys' show is great.
Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Hey, while you're on the line, before you go, what do you think about this new micro-stamping and some of the companies wanting to leave the state and not sell here anymore?
It's like Smith & Wesson, and a few of these firearms are back in New York. They're making firearms. I don't even know why they're in New York. Get the hell out of the state. They hate them because, if you live in New York, that isn't our kind of people. You believe in the Second Amendment. You don't belong in our state.
When in New York, when Smith & Wesson or whatever these companies are that are in this state, when
Smith & Wesson's actually in Massachusetts, I believe.
It is, but there's some that are like Kimbers and Yonkers, New York. But anyway, when these companies started out in New York, these laws were not in place in New York, so it was good to go at the time. And now it's kind of morphed into that. So it's not really that those aren't the people we support because they're having to fight the fight just like we are in California. It's just the laws in the state are what we don't want to support.
That's it.
Do you like the idea of micro-stamping?
No.
How come?
It just seems like a weird thing, and it's how are they going to get that thing where it's really going to actually, micro-stamp? Okay, what's it going to do? It's going to micro-stamp. Is it going to micro-stamp when you fire the round?
Basically, the brass.
It's going to put an imprint on the cartridge, so when that piece wears out, and you either remanufacture one yourself, is that going to make you a criminal?
Well, we've talked about that before.
That's a good point. I never thought about that actually. So your
it wears out to the point.
Your pieces wear out to where it doesn't leave an imprint. You decide, okay, I'm going to replace the firing pin, or you decide you want to put a firing pin in that upgrades your gun, which you can legally do. You can do that with your firearms. You can replace any part you want on it, but it doesn't have the micro stamping on it.
It's a good point.
Will that be illegal?
I think it's on the ejector. I'm not sure where that micro stamp does. I think it hits the side of the cartridge.
Well, it's supposed to be part of the chamber, I believe, and part of the firing pin.
Yep.
Okay,
so it'll leave 2 different marks if they have it their way.
Well, your firing pin is not a lower receiver. I mean, the pin itself is not a lower receiver part.
So it's not a registrable part.
Yeah, you could use a nail.
So you change the pin, that thing's gone.
Right. That's an interesting way to look at things, and that's one way. My thing is, I don't like it because I believe that there is the Firearm Owners Protection Act that protects us all, to where the government is not allowed to retain information except for the very beginning location of where the gun is sent to you from the factory, and or if a crime's been committed with it. Now, if in most states, that information is purged from their systems every night at 12 o'clock, from what I understand. In California, we retain the information indefinitely. And as a matter of fact, California has been doing this through handgun registration since back in 1909, I think, is when they started doing this.
It's a lot.
Approximately. So.
A lot of records to keep.
Right.
I bought an SR-22, and I guess they sent in one of the, they fired a cartridge through it and looked at the firing pin and sent it into the DOJ.
Well, I don't know if they send it into the DOJ. I know they do fire off a couple of rounds just to check that the gun's working correctly, and then send that with the gun to show you that it is working correctly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that went, because I got one where I got my SR-22, and I'm going, okay.
Yep, I mean, that comes with all. Whenever you purchase a firearm new, they all come, with the exception of rifles sometimes, but all handguns will have a new cartridge that the factory fires to function test the pistol.
Okay.
All right, hey, I appreciate your call today. We're going to go ahead and keep going with the show. We've got a lot more information to get out while we can, and as usual, it's been great talking with you today, and keep calling in. We love it.
Hey, I did talk to one of your guys there about something that you could offer as a call-in thing or something. But at any rate, talk to your guys.
All right, you got it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. All right, we're going to hit this back up here. California's Kamala Harris has signed a letter mandating micro-stamping technology for all new semi-automatic handguns being sold in the Golden State. Mm-hmm. Any new model handgun must have a micro-stamp serial number somewhere on the gun's frame and a firing pin that stamps a unique number into the cartridge before or as it ignites the primer. I immediately reached out to Brandon Combs of the Firearm Policy Coalition to confirmed, Brandon has assured me that the roster of handguns certified for sale is being challenged in court as a whole.
Good.
Meanwhile, for those Golden State gun buyers, this means Californians who surmount the paperwork and scrutiny required to purchase a handgun can still buy any of the handguns on the current roster of handguns certified for sale. But that's about it. As of today, all new models which manufacturers want to introduce for sale in California will need to follow the new guidelines. They've got to be capable of microstamping.
Man.
There's not a single handgun manufacturer in the United States that microstamps a cartridge. Not one. And why should there be?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The technology is both expensive and useless. The firing pin can be replaced or sanded down in seconds. And that's kind of what our caller just a second ago was saying.
Absolutely.
And consumers may well balk at the idea. So gun makers looking to introduce new models into California are going to have to design and build handguns that microstamp or nothing. Chances are they'll walk away. Even without the microstamping misgoes, gun makers are dropping California compliant models. The state's registry of acceptable GATs has declined by half since the introduction from 2,400 models to 1,279 today. Sig Sauer has lost 17 models in the month of March alone. And there may come a time when California gun shops may only have a dozen or so new handgun models for sale, or perhaps none. Think that's an exaggeration? California still has no less than 46 civilian disarmament bills floating around the Sacramento legislation. It's a slave state for sure.
Yeah. And that should get you going. That should scare the bejesus out of you. 46 civilian disarmament bills. That's not cool.
That is not cool at all. And you know what? They find out they can't do it directly, so they try to make bills that they know will eventually bar us all from guns anyways.
Yeah, they just set it up so it'll eventually come around and eventually sweep us. And again, like we always say, there's not a whole lot of good proof to that any of this is going to work. And there's, the quote public safety saying.
That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
We give up any of our freedoms for public safety. We've given up freedom altogether.
There you go.
You stand for it for yourself. I mean, you have a responsibility. Who's going to protect you when the bad guy's breaking in your front door with his, hey, just think, Glock 19.
Yeah.
Glock 18 fully automatic pistol.
Exactly.
How are you going to stand up against that?
Yeah.
And who's going to be there that minute to protect you?
Yeah. A baseball bat is not going to cut it.
No.
I mean, I know that everybody's going to say, well, you could just hit them with a bat or hit them with a frying pan. No, not when somebody's shooting at you. Easier said than done, dude.
It reminds me of like Wonder Woman with her bracelets.
Yeah, of course. That's obviously what everybody... Hey, if they can microstamp, we can have Wonder Woman bracelets.
I want Superman bracelets, Darren.
Yeah, me too.
All right, look. There's a lot of companies that are taking this consideration. Like I said before with Matt, HK is no longer submitting any of their new guns for California to purchase. Of course, we know that HK has never really cared about the public as much as they care about law enforcement and military. Mm-hmm. They have the German mindset behind them. But we also have the Glocks. You got to think Glock sent a letter to California when this bill was first introduced and said that, hey, look, this is ridiculous for you to do this. We're not going to comply with that. And if you guys are going to pass this kind of law, we'll have to leave your market.
Right. And that Glock is, if they leave, that's extracting millions and millions of dollars from California.
Well, think of this. Glock has already sent out a letter somewhere stating that no longer will they be selling the 21, the 20, the 17, the 19, and so forth.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
The Generation 3 and back are not going to be sold anymore. They're going to discontinue those guns.
So they have to sell the Gen 4s.
Their new markets. Yes.
But you can't have a Gen 4 in California.
Exactly.
I see what they did there. Did you guys see that?
That
was the old switcheroo. That's the oldest one in the book.
That's like adding Glock to this list, saying Glock's going to be gone.
Yeah,
so
Smith & Wesson, you got Ruger, and we pretty much have Glock.
And Glock is going to be gone. HK is going to be gone. Guess what? Springfield. Everybody think about this.
Yep.
XDs are only going to be made so long, and then they're going to stop making them because they're having more progress with their XDM, XDS.
Yes.
And guns like that. And those guns are not California legal. They're not sending those guns over to California and having them put on the California market.
Right. And it doesn't, just because they're not California legal, it has no bearing on the gun. It doesn't mean it's any more or less safe, any more or less deadly. It just simply means it's not illegal in California. You just can't have it here.
Exactly.
Because they've made a decision that, okay, this model G21, we're not having that.
Now, so we've got Springfield, we've got Glock, we've got HK. Now we have Smith & Wesson and Ruger, which have just come out and said that they're going to pull their semi-automatics. They're not going to renew the handguns that are already on the list,
fall off
and
the
they're
list.
not going to submit any of their new manufactured guns to California either. So
that's 5 huge companies.
What are we going to be reduced to? It looks like Ruger's going to keep their revolvers, and I think Smith & Wesson may keep their revolvers on the market here as well. But again, is that technology going to have to work for a revolver as well? I bet
that's
it does.
a good question. You would, if I had to think the way they're thinking, yeah.
And
why wouldn't it?
How long is it going to be before those are gone as well?
There you go. It's all, that's the big picture. But they're trying to literally take our guns away. I mean, it's working.
Now, I had an interesting conversation with a friend at the shop today. He's basically stating that these manufacturers are, in essence, hurting us instead of helping us. My thing is this. I believe that in these companies doing this, and the more companies that do this, we will have more controversy, more discussion, and it will bring people it'll bring this information to light to more people because of this. And because of that, our legislators are going to get more calls, and hopefully we can overturn these laws in the courts.
Yep.
Now, what he's saying is, well, if they take the guns that are already on the list off, forget about the guns that are never going to make it there because of the microstamping, but the guns that are already on the list and grandfathered onto the list, so long as the fees are paid to keep them on the list.
Right.
If they take those off as well, then those companies are basically taking away our rights here in California to have a gun.
Well, I don't see it that way.
Okay.
Personally, I see it as the state is barring that company from being able to sell a product.
And I think that I personally see it as the company is standing up against tyranny?
Hell yeah, we'll call it that.
I think that is the best word for it. And anybody that would disagree with that
is a tyrant.
or is okay with tyranny and is against the very principles. Remember, we've just had 2 weeks talking about why civilians should have guns.
Yeah, we've submitted so many positive reasons why, and we've even talked about negative things that not everybody likes to talk about. All roads lead to an armed population as a better population.
Absolutely. And there's been plenty of studies that prove that.
Yes.
Anywhere that you go that concealed weapons have been allowed into the thing, and look at Florida as one of the examples.
Right.
Crime goes down,
especially when you pancake it right next to some place that has 0 guns or whatever. They've taken guns away from the civilian population completely, because we know that the criminals in the civilian population, they don't care. They're going to have whatever they want.
Absolutely.
They have switchblade knives and whatever it is. The gun isn't going to change. The weapon's not going to change for them.
And on that note, we should probably take a break. When we come back, we're going to hit you with gunfight. Smith & Wesson, Ruger, quit California over stamping requirements. Be right back with you on the firing line with Matt and Joe.
You're listening to On the Firing Line on the Information Station.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We will be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
On the air with the Midnight Mystic is one of our regular callers, truck driver Charlie.
Well, I just seen another one, Midnight Mystic.
Another Griffin, Charlie?
I'm telling you, they're all over the Central Coast now.
How long have you been on the road now, Charlie?
2, 5, 8 weeks, I don't know.
Perhaps you should park the truck and get some sleep, and maybe the Griffins will disappear.
Well, there it is again. I'm going after it.
What does it look like, Charlie?
Holy mackerel. It's got the body of a lion and the head of an eagle.
Is it flying, Charlie?
It's on the side of a white truck.
Is it a Griffin plumbing truck, Charlie?
Could be. I don't know. I'm pulling right up to it.
We seem to have lost contact with Charlie, but I'm sure he'll be okay because Griffins, just like the good folks at Griffin Plumbing, are here to protect and serve. In fact, if your plumbing devices are threatened in any way,
call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440. Or, if you're in the local Santa Maria area, please give us a call at 928-1440.
Yes, we are back on the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. We're talking about Smith & Wesson and Ruger and how they are going to quit California over stamping requirements.
Wow, this just in, dude. This is some new information right here.
All right, drop it.
Glock factory reps have confirmed that the new 45 ACP Glock 41 and the 380 ACP Glock 42 are not on California's approved list, and Glock won't be micro-stamping.
Wow.
Since the technology doesn't exist in any viable form. So while Glock's models are currently on the approved list, they will continue to be sold. No new models are going on.
So basically,
Wow.
if you're a Glock fan and you're seeing, oh, cool, they're coming out with a couple new guns, maybe I'm going to save up and get one of those. Nope, they just don't even do it.
Don't even go to your local gun store and ask.
No, come on in and ask.
Well, yeah.
But just don't have high hopes. But, who wants a 380 Glock anyway?
All right, check this out. Gunflight, Smith & Wesson, Ruger quit California over stamping requirement. This was written by Perry Chiaramonte and published January 24th. So it's just yesterday from Fox News, okay?
That's one of the big ones. Let's see what they're saying.
A new gun law proponent says helps law enforcement has driven Smith & Wesson and Sturm Ruger out of California and affirmed the suspicions of firearms rights advocates that the measure is really about making handguns obsolete. The two companies have announced they will stop selling their wares in the nation's most populous state rather than try to comply with the law that requires some handguns to have technology that imprints a tiny sharp or stamp on the bullet.
I know.
So it can be traced back to the gun. Okay, that's got to be a typo because it's supposed to be the casing, not the bullet. The bullet becomes deformed, and that would be useless.
You're gonna stamp the bullet right before you shoot it into a target? Yeah, awesome.
The companies and many gun enthusiasts say so-called microstamping technology is unworkable in its present form and can actually impair a gun's performance. Smith & Wesson does not and will not include microstamping in its firearms. The Springfield, Massachusetts-based manufacturer said in the statement, a number of studies have indicated that microstamping is unreliable, serves no safety purpose, is cost prohibitive, and most importantly, is not proven to aid in preventing or solving crimes.
Right. I mean, I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and guess that the reason for this is so when bad guy A shoots whatever, there's going to leave casings on the ground. Police are going to be able to pick them up and immediately identify who it is, right? That's how of course, that's how it's going to work.
Well, that's supposedly the best things in the best world.
Yeah, I mean,
perfect worlds.
Okay, so that's how they're going to be, we'll just say prosecuting people is based off of that. So when your gun gets stolen, they go out and commit a crime. Now they find him, and then they say, oh, looks like Matt Coleman has shot up this place. But my gun got stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
you didn't know that? I reported that to you last week.
Exactly. You know, so it's just, I don't see the bearings on this.
No. And if they want to, they can just go buy a new firing pin that doesn't have any microstamping and put it in the gun and go fire it.
Yeah, exactly. And
sand out the...
exactly. People are going to do what they have to do to make it illegal again or whatever the heck it is. That way they can use it in the commission of a crime.
First it's pistols, next it'll be rifles.
Yeah, and then it's going to be us.
Hey, put a chip in you? I like it. No. I know where you were last night. I followed you. You have no privacy.
Beep, 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 beep. Oh, Dick Tracy watch.
This is not the Russia.
No.
This is the latest attempt to undermine the Second Amendment in California by politicians with little to no knowledge of firearms.
Yeah.
Put it on a bullet. Chuck Michael, National Rifle Association, the microstamping mandate, and the company's unwillingness to adopt this so-called technology will result in a diminishing number of Smith & Wesson semi-automatic pistols available for purchase by California residents. Southport, Connecticut-based Storm Ruger also announced this month they will also stop selling their guns in California due to the microstamping law. Firearm microstamping or ballistic imprinting works by engraving a microscopic mark onto the tip of the firing pin. When the gun is fired, it leaves an imprint, usually a serial number, or the bullet casing, or on the bullet casings. The telltale mark theoretically allows law enforcement investigators to trace the bullet, to the registered gun owner. California's law is the first in the nation to be implemented and was originally signed into effect in October of 2007, but not implemented until recently.
Mm-hmm.
Several other states are considering similar measures.
Well, get it out of there. Run.
Law enforcement is exempt from microstamping requirements. Critics say tracing a bullet to a registered gun owner does little to fight crime, since criminals often kill with stolen handguns, like Matt said.
Yeah.
Many believing tracing bullets was never the real intent of the law in the first place. This is the latest attempt to undermine the Second Amendment in California by politicians with little to no knowledge of firearms, who seek to impose their liberal values upon those who choose to protect their families with the constitutional right to own a handgun, said Chuck Michael, West Coast counsel for the National Rifle Association, an adjunct professor at Chapman University and author of the book California Gun Laws. Actually, that's a good book.
I was just going to say, that's a very informative, good book, and this guy's telling it like it is. I mean, he's kind of just what we said. It's not going to be viable for catching criminals.
Most of your law enforcement say the same thing, too. The only time you get law enforcement to say yes are going to be when you have the Policemen's Association, which is not a fair representation of our law enforcement, because they are bought and paid for or are buying and paying for a politician.
Absolutely. Yeah, somebody's got to, the money that these programs get are funded by someone somewhere, I mean, you got to always think that. And yes, they're police officers and they're going to probably do the right thing 10 out of 10 times, but if they're getting paid, money changes people, guys.
Yep. One of the main arguments critics pose in this claim that the technology is not perfected, yet the requirement has been put into effect. The technology doesn't fully exist yet, but by making it into law, California, in fact, enacted a gun law without actually passing one. David Koppel, a constitutional law professor at the Denver University Stern College of Law and research director of the Independent Institute, told Fox News, this is an indirect way to ban new handguns from being sold.
Yeah.
The patent holder of microstamping tech, Todd Lazoie, was part of the Department of Justice study team, which concluded that legitimate questions exist related to both the technical aspects, production cost, and database management associated with microstamping that should be addressed before wide-scale implementation is legislatively mandated.
Yeah.
According to the study, which has published in the Association of Firearm and Tool Marks Examiners, the AFT Journal, lawsuits were also filed against the Golden State this week by the National Sporting Sports Foundation and the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Manufacturers Institute, challenging the microstamping law, saying in a statement this week that they predicted back in 2007, when the law was first passed, that it would result in a de facto semi-automatic handgun ban. That's my point. De facto semi-automatic handgun ban.
I think that's the point of the...
Yes, apply that to the guns that people will not resubmit to the California gun list.
Yep.
And also the new guns that they're not going to submit to.
Yeah, and what are we left with?
It's a de facto semi-automatic handgun ban. And if you take it to the Ninth Circuit, even they are probably going to recognize it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, if they have the wherewithal to realize it. I mean, it seems so simple. Like, again, it's one of these things, if you know about it, if you're even a little bit educated about this stuff, you know it's ridiculous. If you don't, you're going to follow the herd.
Right. And here's another thing. If the Ninth Circuit doesn't back us up on this, take it to the Supreme Court, hopefully before anybody else is appointed, and we're going to be backed up on this. I honestly believe so.
I
they're
would agree
leaning
with
towards the constitutional.
I agree with that. I
things.
mean, anytime it goes up to something like that, usually it gets, backed up by, like Joe just said, with the Constitution. They don't usually go against the Constitution. Usually.
It's perception, though. And
that's very
that's
true.
the one thing that can bite us in the butt.
Yep, good call.
There are other states considering a microstamping requirement, and that includes Connecticut, New York, and Massachusetts, which is crazy. Can you imagine in Massachusetts?
Yeah. I mean, all of them.
We already know and expect it from New York.
But
we should expect it from Massachusetts, too, though, I suppose.
Yes.
Smith & Wesson said it expects sales of its California-compliant revolvers, which aren't required to have microstamping, will offset the impact to the company.
You think?
Company president and CEO James Debney vowed to continue to work with industry groups to oppose the law while providing California customers with products that do comply with it. Okay, so revolvers are exempt. So revolvers, in a sense, are a semi-automatic.
Well, yeah, you press the trigger and it goes off 6 times, 7 times.
Right, and it automatically rotates something, puts another round into place so that when you pull the trigger again, it goes bang.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a revolver,
it's just not a magazine-fed semi-automatic.
Okay.
That's the whole...
Has anybody been to a shooting competition lately and watched those guys change their rounds out of those revolvers?
Right, you can... With a little bit of practice, like anything else, you can change a revolver just as fast probably as you can change a semi-automatic magazine.
Absolutely. And now with a lot of revolvers getting 8 and 10 rounds in their gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point.
What's the difference?
There isn't a difference. Either way, it's a gun. It's the same, either way, it's the Second Amendment right.
This is getting ridiculous. What are we going to do to be able to stop this? How are we going to bring this debate to a bigger picture and bring this to a head and stop all this?
I think
this is the goal for all of us here, right?
I think that these big companies putting their foot in the door for this, that's kind of how it's going to start to happen. It's going to take these big companies that have a vested interest, major vested interest, to come out and say what they're saying. Like Smith & Wesson, California, sorry, we're not going to sell it to you if you're going to oppose the Second Amendment.
What right does a state have to tell another company how to do their business, how to run their business?
You can't sell Fords here.
And then in doing so, if they say this is what you have to do with your company or you can't sell here, are they not barring us from the guns at that point? And if the guns that these companies do make and are already on a list, they decide, well, you know what? We don't like that these people or this entity, the state, is telling us this. We're just going to back out of that and let the people solve the problem. And when they solve it, then we'll bring the guns back to them. Do you think that it's right for them to keep us from these firearms that we need to be able to protect ourselves?
Yeah.
Or should we allow these companies to do that so that we can get our acts together?
Well, that's the yin and the yang right there of it, I guess.
It's a debate that should be had.
I agree. I totally agree. I just, it boils down to it's an infringement, and that's what it boils down to me. Of course, we need to get a lot of people behind us to get over this bump, but they're going to keep throwing these speed bumps at us until they get a result.
I wonder if all the facts were out and the California public was allowed to vote on this.
A straight up vote, yeah.
What would happen? What would be the outcome?
That's very interesting. I wonder, someone like Google should do an online poll. Somebody who gets all those people, and have X million people say yes or no. Or I would be curious just to see the percentage.
I think that would be very interesting. This is something that this is the slow encroachment.
Yeah.
To
it sure is
under disguise of legislation to completely revamp and change the way America does things. It starts in this state and it progresses on, except there are some states that will put their foot down and have nothing to do with it, thank God.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm at such a loss right now with all this stuff because it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's aggravating.
It is. It really is. And it just seems, I don't know, like I just want to scream at some of these people.
It reminds me too, okay, you and I, we practice drills on how to get through malfunctions of a firearm.
Yeah, absolutely.
These laws hurt us more than they help us. And I liken this to our ARs. To clear a double feed, you need to pull back your bolt, lock it into place, remove your magazine.
Yep. Run the bolt a few times.
And then put your magazine back in, rock your bolt forward, and away you go. With a bullet button in it, good luck.
No, yeah, a double feed will essentially render the gun useless.
Right.
If you can't pull the magazine out.
Now I get wounded because of that.
Yeah, because I had to open the mechanical action up and the thing went off while I was doing it. And so now they call me Matt Two Toes or whatever.
Two-Toe Matt. That's your new name.
Darn it.
But
that's the idea.
Now we have revolver and semi-automatic. They're going to start banning these guns, stating that it has to have these things in it. Well, what if I can't use a revolver for some reason? My thumb doesn't quite hit the thing to open up and put new rounds into it, and so I need to use a semi-automatic, which I can kind of still hold on to the gun and rack it with by just gripping it with my fingers and the serrations on the slide. But now I can't have the gun that works best for me, and so now my life could possibly be in jeopardy because I don't have the best tool that I can possibly get.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, if it wasn't any good to make better tools, we'd all be still using rocks and slingshots.
Oh my God, yeah. When you killed somebody, it would be looking them straight in the eye, which, by the way, still happens. There's plenty of knife stabbings out there. There's bludgeoning going on across the United States, in California as well.
If you can think of it, it's happened.
And it still happens.
Exactly, and it still happens. And laws don't stop it from happening. Sorry to say. I wish it did, but it doesn't. That's not the way of the world. People are going to do what people do. If they're already on the thought process of I'm going to go and create havoc to the world, then that's what they're going to do.
Absolutely. My thing is this: get rid of registration and go for education.
Education, 100%.
That's what we were talking about earlier. It makes more sense than anything else. You've got to simplify things and use common sense and give people the ability to stand up and think for themselves again. Make America strong.
Yep. Yes.
Don't let America be weak.
That's a great point, because when people learn, they tend to feel better about themselves. When they feel better about themselves, positive things tend to happen.
Absolutely.
So this could be where it starts. This is just a broad of, this kind of thing happening could better a lot.
American self-esteem has gone down so much. Listen to the rhetoric that goes around there. And a lot of it's created by our leaders who give us no self-esteem.
Yeah, we're all victims. That's what they want us to think. Everybody just be a sheep because you're all a victim. Everybody cower in the corner until the cavalry arrives.
Which a lot of times it's a little too late.
Yeah, most of the time, I know they try their best and they get there as fast as they can, but these guys are busy and they can't just teleport to your front door. They got to get there. It takes time. It takes action.
We've all got to sit down together and start working this out. We need to take a little bit of time every week and work with our communities and get this stuff solved. Yeah. Get your points out there and learn these things so that you can see the truth for yourself. Don't just believe what the media puts out there. The media does it for money or attention and backed up by politicians who want their name heard. We've got to do something to get this thing done right. This is getting aggravating.
Can't we all just get a gun?
And those of you who don't want a gun, hopefully there's enough of us out there who will protect you.
Yeah.
But
you'll
don't
be
expect me to
later.
be there right when it's happening.
Yeah, don't exactly.
I don't have a crystal ball either.
Oh, there you go. Run to his house. Don't run to my house. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, truth there. Sorry. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to Matt and Joe on the Firing Line. As always, we'll be back next Saturday at 4:05, 1440 a.m.